Welcome to the deep dive. We're plunging into a story today that I think, well, many of you might find really hits home. It's about language learning.
Right, but more specifically, it's about that sometimes shocking difference between studying a language,
Yeah.
in a classroom.
And then suddenly having to live it day in, day out.
Exactly. And our source today isn't some academic study. It's a very raw, personal narrative, really emotional.
So someone sharing their real experience.
Yes, navigating a new country, thinking their language skills were pretty solid, and then dot bam,
Mm-hmm.
reality hits.
See, that feeling of inadequacy, even after years of study.
We're going to unpack that.
Yeah.
What happens when all that confidence meets, well, the cold reality of everyday interactions? And the lessons learned there about communication, yes, but also about courage.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive, pull out the key insights from this story. Moving abroad, those unexpected language hurdles, and that deep emotional struggle to find your voice again.
Yeah. And there's some surprising things here about how language acquisition actually works in the real world, and honestly about human resilience, too.
All right, let's dive in. Picture this. Someone arrives, super excited, feeling totally ready.
They've got the background right. Studied English since childhood.
Could write essays, ace exams, read novels.
Teachers praised them, so the thinking was, naturally, okay, English, no problem, I've got this.
Ready for the new life. Confident.
But then the airport, that first real world test.
Ah, the immigration officer.
Exactly. And the source describes this officer's voice. Deep, thick accent. He asked that standard question, what's the purpose of your visit?
Simple enough. Words they definitely knew.
Knew perfectly well. But in that moment, they sounded completely foreign. Panic just floods in. Mind goes totally blank.
Oh, I can almost feel that. What did they say?
Just managed to mumble, yes. That's it.
Wow.
And the feeling afterward. Small, like a child pretending to be an adult. It's that effective filter kicking in heart anxiety, basically shutting down access to what you know.
That's fascinating. And the hits kept coming, right? It wasn't just the airport.
No, not at all. The very next day, something totally mundane happens. They need toothpaste.
Right? Simple errand.
Go into a store. Friendly shop assistant greets them, casually. Hey there. You all right?
Which is just the standard British greeting, like, how are you?
Exactly. But our source just freezes, completely misinterprets it, thinks, is something wrong? Do I look sick? Couldn't process it, couldn't ask where the toothpaste was, just walked out, empty-handed.
And that led to the first breakdown.
Yeah, crying on the sidewalk. And the source is really clear. It wasn't about the toothpaste. It was this crushing weight, the realization of being totally, utterly lost, your skills just vanishing.
That's rough. So what happened next? Did they push through or?
Well, initially, no. What followed were these silent weeks.
Silent weeks.
Yeah, a real withdrawal, avoiding conversations whenever possible.
Nodding along.
Saying yes, but not understanding.
Yeah.
Laughing at jokes they didn't get, just trying to blend in, driven by this deep shame.
That sounds incredibly isolating.
It was. There's this little anecdote about a neighbor, really friendly, offering a cuppa, tea.
Just a casual invitation.
And the response, out of fear, was always, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
Until eventually, the neighbor just stopped asking.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. The cost of that silence is huge.
It really is. But it also highlights how academic skill, book smarts, can just crumble when faced with real accents, social cues, the speed of native speakers.
So, weeks of silence, feeling lost. Where did things change? Was there a turning point?
Thankfully, yes. A really pivotal moment. The source describes just lying there one night thinking, okay, this is it. Either I stay silent forever or I start fighting back.
A conscious decision, a line in the sand.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really interesting, I think. The shift from just passively struggling to actively deciding, no, I'm going to do something.
So what did fighting back look like? What did they actually do?
It wasn't vague. They made really specific daily commitments, things they could actually do.
Like,
Okay, so listen to English podcasts for 20 minutes every day. Watch one video, just one, and repeat the sentences out loud. Learn 5 new words and, crucially, Use them in sentences they made up themselves.
Practical stuff.
And the big one, speak to at least one person every single day, even terrified. Just do it.
Wow, forcing yourself out there.
Which really speaks to that idea, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Real learning, real growth, it starts right where your comfort zone ends. You have to push past the fear.
Okay, so they have this plan. Did it work? Was there like an early success?
There was a small one, but huge psychologically. Ordering coffee.
The classic practice scenario.
Right, and they describe actually doing it, asking for a latte. Their voice was shaking, they felt physically
I
nervous.
bet.
But the barista just casually replied, "Sure thing," or something similar. Totally normal interaction.
But for them,
It felt like they'd just climbed a mountain. That tiny success, that normal interaction was proof that it was possible. It builds that little bit of momentum, you know?
that's brilliant. Small acts of courage leading to bigger ones.
Absolutely. But, and this is important, the progress wasn't like a straight line upwards.
Okay. Not always easy.
No. The source talks about how weeks turned into months. Understanding definitely got better. They started getting jokes sometimes, even thinking in English occasionally.
Which sounds like great progress.
It was. But it wasn't perfect. And then came this real low point. A rainy Tuesday night, feeling totally empty after work, a colleague made a joke, and they just felt like they didn't belong still.
Even after months of effort and seeing improvement?
Yeah. And they were still making basic grammar mistakes sometimes, like saying he go instead of he goes. And the thought hit them hard. What's the point?
Oh, wow. That's tough. After all that work, to still feel like an outsider and question it all? What happens then?
Well, that low point actually triggered a really profound realization. This is maybe the core insight of the whole story.
Oh, okay.
They realized the real problem wasn't English.
It wasn't English. What was it then?
It was fear. Yeah. The fear of being judged, the fear of sounding stupid, the fear of just not being enough. That was the real enemy, as they put it.
So the language barrier was almost secondary to the fear barrier.
In a way, yes. The fear was what led to the silence, the withdrawal, the hesitation. And they have this powerful line, silence is where dreams go to die.
Wow. That's huge. Recognizing fear as the main obstacle. That's an aha moment for sure.
A massive one. And identifying the real enemy meant they could start fighting it directly.
So how did they tackle the fear? What changed in their approach?
They started doing things specifically to build confidence and lower the stakes. One really interesting strategy, they started speaking to myself in English.
Talking to themselves out loud.
Yep, just narrating their day, thinking through things in English. Today I feel tired. I want to make pasta. What's the word for that thing? Spoon. Yes. Things like that.
Huh. Sounds a bit odd, but I can see how that might work. Like practicing without pressure.
Exactly. It's actually a known technique, sometimes called internal monologue training. Plus, they recorded their own voice, listened back, and practiced repeating after native speakers.
Getting comfortable with their own voice in English.
Right. And the biggest shift, mindset. They consciously decided to stop caring about mistakes.
Easier said than done, I imagine.
For sure. But they focused instead on celebrating every tiny victory, every understood conversation, every successful coffee order, every new word used.
Shifting from seeking perfection to celebrating progress.
Precisely. Moving away from needing external validation. You know, wanting people to say your English is good and finding that motivation internally.
That's a powerful shift.
Yeah.
And did that lead to a sort of breakthrough moment?
It culminated in a really lovely anecdote. One day, completely spontaneously, they helped a lost tourist find the train station, gave directions, had a proper little conversation.
Putting all that practice into action.
And afterwards, the tourist just casually said, your English is really good.
Ah, the validation they'd stopped chasing.
Exactly. And the source says, I almost cried. But here's the key part. Not because she said I was good, but because for the first time, I believed it.
Wow. That's it, isn't it? The internal belief finally clicked into place, the reward for all that persistent, courageous effort.
It really is. Believing it yourself.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What are the big takeaways from this deep dive, this story?
Well, first, clearly, studying English and living in English are two different worlds. That academic knowledge is a foundation, but it's not the whole building.
Right. The real journey starts when you step into the messy reality of actually using it.
And second, maybe the biggest one, you don't need perfect grammar. You need courage.
Courage over perfection.
Absolutely. And link that to the idea that real learning starts where your comfort zone ends. You have to push through that discomfort, that fear.
And if you're listening to this and you feel those same doubts, whether it's language or any skill, you're definitely not alone in that feeling.
Not at all. And the message from the person who shared this story, directly to anyone listening who feels that struggle, is so powerful.
What is it?
It's basically, you are not stupid. You are learning something incredibly hard, and you're doing it bravely. Please don't give up.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and the advice is just speak, even if your voice shakes, even if you make 10 mistakes, even if people laugh with them. Just keep going. Find that courage.
Embrace the imperfection. It's such a powerful story. It really makes you think learning a language, maybe it's less about conjugating verbs.
And more about learning courage.
Yeah, the courage to put your thoughts out there, your feelings, just yourself,
Right.
even imperfectly.
Your voice matters, right? Your unique story. And speaking, even with mistakes, connects you. It chips away at that isolation, maybe help someone else feel less alone too.
So the final thought to leave you with. What kind of transformation is possible, not just in language, but in yourself when you make that decision? When you decide to let your voice be heard, imperfections and all, something to really mull over.